Before I get to the topic at hand, I just want to reinforce a message which I gave at the EU Business Conference last week. I'm not going to go into the details because I gave a very comprehensive presentation in terms of state of play with respect to our economy. But I do want to reinforce in terms of state of play with respect to our economy. But I do want to reinforce a message from that conference. Our leadership is at it. Their mediation efforts continue to move from strength to strength. And therefore, we have seen one positive development overnight. And therefore, हम सब दुआगो हैं कि ये जो conflict है, इसका जल्द से जल्द खात्मा हो. It's the right thing for the world, for our region, for our country. Having said that, hope is not a strategy. And therefore, we need to be laser focused on what it means in terms of the first order impact. और उसके बारे में मैंने पिछले हफ्ते भी बात की थी. So far so good. अप्रैल के नंबर्स आ रहे हैं, मैंने मार्च के नंबर्स की बात की थी. तो उसमें we are very focused on our current account, our balance of payment discussion, our fiscal discussion at this point in time. And we, along with the Governor of the Central Bank, we stand firm in terms of the targets that we have in the economy, whether it's our FX reserves or it's other commitments that we have made to international institutions for this fiscal year. As far as the second and third order impact is concerned, it's a direct function of the duration and the intensity of the conflict. And therefore, उसमें भी हमने जो सिनारियो एनालिसिस है वो बिल्कुल हम कर रहे हैं. और इसमें जो इस वक्त NCMC, which is working, and they are working on the procurement, the logistics, the food security, everything that is going to be important to keep us moving in the right direction. And at the same time, as I said, on some of the macro situation and the macro discussion, we are very laser focused, and the fact that during this conflict we have been able to tap international capital markets after a hiatus of 4 years shows the kind of trust and confidence that not only G2G discussion but the international investors and institutional investors are showing in Pakistan. Now the topic at hand. वो मेरे पास एक लिखी हुई तकरीर है, लेकिन आपका वक्त बहुत कीमती है, तो I'm just going to focus on 3 or 4 things which I do think are very critical. पहली बात तो ये है कि जो कैपिटल मार्केट्स की डिस्कशन हुई है, डॉक्टर सिद्धू ने बात की है. Then the second part of it is equity versus the debt capital market. The third part of it is the role of the SECP as a regulator. And then the fourth one, why all of us are together here, which is partnership. So I agree कि आज का ये जो तकरीब है, this is a very important step in the right direction. It's a milestone which actually shows our collective resolve. It's not about me chairing the Capital Market Development Council, but collective resolve to deepen, broaden and modernize the capital markets in Pakistan. ये सिर्फ किताबी बातें नहीं हैं कि जो robust capital markets हैं, they are engines of sustainable growth. Whether it's in the context of mobilizing savings, channeling capital, enabling risk sharing, and even more importantly, accessing long-term financing, whether those are startups or infrastructure projects. देखिए ये मैं I would take it back into the discussion and the overview with respect to the conflict, because 2020 hindsight is a wonderful thing. तो इस कॉन्फ्लिक्ट से पिछले 2 महीने में हमने क्या चीज़ें सीखी हैं जो हमें करना चाहिए था और अब इंशाल्लाह आगे करेंगे। 1, commercial reserves are not good enough. Any country has to build strategic reserves. Number 2, we are on our way, whether it's solar, whether it's wind, whether it's hydro, but we have to accelerate our journey towards renewables. And we will do every possible thing to make financing available to accelerate our journey towards renewables. And that's where capital markets again comes in. And the third thing I would say is indigenous. अपने आप पर rely करना सीखें. Yes, we have our bilateral partners, we have our multilateral partners, but ultimately, और इसका एक एग्जाम्पल मैं आपको ये देता हूँ कि 22 का जब फ्लड आया, it was a devastating flood. It affected one river and essentially one province or maybe part of the second province. And we had to go for international appeal right away. जिनीवा हम पहुँचे, pledges ली, उसमें से कुछ आया, कुछ नहीं आया. 25 flooding. Unfortunately, it was more intense than 22. 3 rivers, and almost the entire Pakistan got affected. और उसमें बड़ा उस वक्त था कि इंटरनेशनल अपील पे जाए. If we have the fiscal buffer available, if we have the resources available here in terms of rescue and relief, and then into reconstruction, rehabilitation, we don't need to rely on any other country or any other multilateral institution. That is the power that जब हम बात करते हैं पाकिस्तान फर्स्ट की, जब हम बात करते हैं हमारी डिप्लोमेसी की, उसी में जो बात होती है कि जी नेशनल सिक्योरिटी इज एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी एंड देयरफॉर इकोनॉमिक सिक्योरिटी. दैट इज द पावर ऑफ मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक स्टेबिलिटी, लेडीज एंड जेंटलमैन. जब हम बात करते हैं कि मैक्रो स्टेबिलिटी आ गई है, ग्रोथ क्यों नहीं आ रही, तो इसका क्या फ़ायदा है? दैट इज बेसिक हाइजीन. Whether it's foreign investors, local investors, or when we get into these exogenous shocks, that's where the fiscal buffers and the macro stability comes in. And inshallah, we are very focused. More and more, we are going to be focused on our indigenous capital raising, indigenous resourcing to fund what we need to do as part of national security. And therefore, the capital markets are going to play a very important role. देखिए, टाइमिंग इज़ क्रिटिकल. क्लाइमेट है, जब मैंने उसकी बात कर ली है, टेक्नोलॉजी है, डेमोग्राफिक फोर्सेस. द रियलिटी इज देयर आर टू मैनी प्रॉमिसिंग प्रोजेक्ट्स जो ट्रेडिशनल बैंक लेंडिंग की वजह से उसमें या इनसफिशिएंसी है या उसकी सूटेबिलिटी नहीं है. एंड देयरफॉर वी नीड टू डाइवर्सिफाई अवे. I was told कि मैंने कितने बैंक्स के लिए काम किया है, but we have to diversify away from the concentration that we have on the banking sector, including the government, including the private sector. Government का तो ये कहा जाता है कि we are crowding out the private sector. So therefore we have to go into the sukuks and the capital markets and everything that we are trying to do. But for the private sector, I think that's also going to be very important. दूसरा जो मैंने पॉइंट कहा कि equity की बात की, डॉक्टर सिद्धू ने भी उसकी बात की, उसमें कोई शक की गुंजाइश नहीं है कि notwithstanding the volatility that we have seen, primarily because of the conflict over the last 4 to 6 weeks, because ये बड़ी uncertain situation है. There is risk off, there is risk on, and then within the same day there is risk off and risk on, depending on who tweets and who says what, etc. तो इसलिए वो volatility जो है वो अपनी जगह बरकरार है. लेकिन फॉर मी, द अंडरलाइंग पिलर